This is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, coming to you out of Boise, Idaho, making a video for you here. First of all, thanks for following me, thanks for supporting me, and all that other good stuff. So here's the Chrysler, the 2.7 liter engine that we redid the water pump and the timing on and diagnosed and everything. And when it first came to us, it came to us with the complaint that it was running hot. It wasn't necessarily overheating, but it was running hot. And getting into it, you know, I found all kinds of discrepancies, including a bunch of rubber and some coolant hoses and stuff that have been cooked from it running hot. And so after diagnosing it, understanding the make of and the engineering behind this engine, testing for hydrocarbons in the coolant, going through the whole 9 yards, we finally agreed with what some other, from what I understand, I guess another mechanic or somebody else said, that it's very possibly the water pump. Now, the thing about the Chrysler 2.7 liter engine is the water pump is internal inside of the engine, and if it starts leaking or something goes wrong with it, like if the impeller's not working properly anymore, then it can start leaking, like I said, and it'll dump water inside of the crankcase there, and within a matter of minutes you can destroy this engine. We did not find any coolant mixer or anything like that, but we did find a bad water pump. So at that point, that's, you know, we called it a bad water pump. We went through the whole car. Now here, I don't have a huge overhead, so along with the new water pump, I just bought one of those kits. And we replaced the water pump, we replaced the chains, we replaced the timing guides, we replaced the tensioner, we replaced the dual overhead cam gears on both sides, we replaced the main crank timing gear, all the gaskets, valve cover gaskets, intake gaskets, and then on top of that, this car had been wrecked, and that's why you see some different pieces, because when I pulled it apart, pieces that had been smashed fell apart on me. So we replaced these headlights, we replaced the centerpiece, we replaced the hood latch here, and then underneath here there's a brand spanking new AC condenser, as well as a brand new Hayden aftermarket cooler, because when we pulled all this apart, it had been hit, and so all this had actually been bowed and pressed back, so anything that had been damaged we also replaced. So we did all that work, and whenever I crack an engine open, I like to run them for an extensive amount of time. I like to let them sit and idle for, honestly, if I can do it for half a day, in 30-minute increments or an hour or two at a time, I'll just do that. And then I like to take them for a good 60-mile test drive, possibly more. The reason being is 30 miles on a car with an OBD2 system is what's called a computer drive cycle. So if there's anything wrong that's going to kick off a check engine light, it'll do it within that 30 to 60 miles. And honestly, a 60 to 100 mile test drive after replacing valve train components and stuff like that or rebuilding an engine is probably good anyways. And so that's what I started doing on this, because I thought I was done with it. And if you notice, check it out. Sounds great, doesn't it? Starts right up, runs great. Engine's in good condition, it really is. Okay, I'm gonna turn it off now. So let me tell you what happened here, okay? I've done that. I've started and ran this vehicle, honestly, probably for about a good 4 or 5 hours now. Over the course of a week, I took it for a test drive. I put almost 3 miles on it before my hood came up on me and it hit the windshield, and if you notice, I went ahead and replaced the windshield. And since then, I've had it sitting out here, I've had it idling, I've ran it through all its checks, made sure everything was going to go good. So I was going to deliver it to the customers today and call it finished, and before I did, I wanted to allow it to idle for another 30 minutes, and then I was going to put probably a good 30 miles on it. And then when the customer came in, I was going to do one last test drive with them for 30 miles, call that my 60 miles, and call it done. And don't forget, I've already driven it now for about 3 miles, maybe a little bit more up and down the road and stuff. And so this morning, about 20 minutes into my final idle test, I noticed I started getting a steady stream of white smoke coming out of the tailpipe. And oh my gosh, I know enough to understand that after a car warms up, after it's been running for a little bit, and then it starts producing white smoke, what that could mean. So, even though it sounds like it runs great and everything, and it no longer has any more coolant issues or anything else, sure enough, I reran my test, and sure enough, I've got a blown head gasket on this car now. Now let me explain to you real quick, make this a longer video short here. Let me explain to you how this happens, all right? My mentor, even though I've got 18 years experience every day in this industry, I do keep a mentor, and he's got 60 years experience now at this time, and he's not just a mechanic or a technician. He's actually a degreed automotive engineer, among other degrees and certifications. So when I finally brought it to him, to his attention, hey, I think I have a blown head gasket after the fact, you know, this is where this type of job, or even this business period, gets hard and gets rough, because we did all of this work on the cooling system. And anybody, you can go and Google it, you can look up the diagrams from this reservoir all through here to your heater hoses, to your upper and lower radiator hoses. This is a little bit of a complicated system. It's also a high pressure system. And so with that being said, what we have here is the avalanche effect. Also, in our industry, it's called a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And I fixed everything per the cooling system, brought everything back up to snuff, got everything running good again, brought pressure back up in the cooling system, and I'd be willing to bet the family fortune on this one, because it's been run a little warm, it weakened the head gasket. However, because we had leaks and we had bad hoses and the water pump wasn't working right, the pressure wasn't correct in the first place. So now that we got the reservoir replaced, and now that we got the water pump replaced and the hoses, and we've got proper pressure, well, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And during the post-op test, the final test, lo and behold, we blew a head gasket. So that's that. I don't know any other way to explain that. Now, how to communicate this to my customers, that's where I get into a hard point, because this job was already a nightmare from the get-go, honestly. And I mean, a head gasket in town in a shop is probably going to be $1,500, you know. So the only thing I can do on this is explain it just like that. Listen, the job is done. As you can see, for the timing and the water pump, everything works great. Believe it or not, the car right now doesn't show any signs of overheating, other than dumping coolant out of the exhaust, which is and hydrocarbons in the system now, all of a sudden, where we didn't have them before, is obvious signs now of blown head gasket. And sometimes that just happens in this industry. So I'd be interested to hear anybody else's stories that maybe something like this has gone, because honestly, this is not my first rodeo with a situation like this, where you're dealing with a complicated system and it has multiple issues with that system, and it's not working at 100%. So once you start getting it up to snuff and working right, well, then other things that may not have been as weak, well, now that stuff starts going out. And so a lot of times when it comes to doing stuff like this on a professional level, it really just all depends on where the customers are going to roll their marbles at, you know? So all right, folks. Well, thanks everybody for supporting me, and leave some comments and let me know if you've ever been in a situation like this. I hope everybody has a good one. And this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off.